here with, seems crazy to say, the world's strongest man in the world, like crazy, and Don, the man behind the world's ultimate strongman event. Okay, so this is going to be an absolute spectacle in Dubai on the 26th of October. As you can see, Don looks pretty stressed. He's lost his hair. He had a full head of hair before he started organising this event.
I had an afro before I started this.
So I'll let Don explain a little bit about what the event is and why it's so unique that it's coming to Dubai. And then obviously we've got a lot of questions for Eddie.
To put it very simply, it's probably the most spectacular sport in the world. The best athletes in that sport competing against each other in probably the best format in the world, in probably the most sellable and most entertaining city in the world. To put it simply, it's a giant leviathan of a show, an open air festival, just like you would be going to Glastonbury or Tomorrowland, but instead of music, you've got entertaining features leading up to sporting events that are all interactive with the visitor. So the only thing you can't have a go at as a visitor is the events of the strongman itself. Like, I mean, you can't have a kid going and trying to pull a truck, but we've got mini strongman areas with medicine balls instead of Atlas balls, so everybody can have, everything is interactive. Yeah?
What I quite like about this as well is you know, living in Dubai for 4 years now, a lot of people have ideas and they come up with ideas and they try things, but most of the time when someone I feel tries something new, they do it on a bit of a small scale, you know. They try it, and let's say they're going to bring the strongest men out. They might get
3 or 4.
Some people in the top 50. You know, they're going to be stronger than the average Joe. But I was kind of looking at through the people that you brought, and you kind of went straight in there for the best.
There's no other way to do it. If we're going to say something like we're going to do the best X in the world, or the best Y, or the best Z, then you got to back it up. So you can't go halfway. I mean, if you've gone this far, you may as well go the whole. We've got the best festival producing company in the world, the guys that do Tomorrowland and Sensation and everything. Yeah, you've got the world's strongest men. You've got Eddie, who's pretty much the face of the sport. Okay, and you've got Dubai. You've got Maidan. They own the arena. The arena, even the arena, was picked purely because of its look. Yeah. You can't really find that arena. You can call and try to rent it. It's not available. It's not an arena that is, oh, you can't, yeah, you can book this, the price is this is standard. No, they only give it out 4 times a year. One of them is for the horse racing. Yeah? Nobody even knows where it is. But when they see it, the arena itself is a selling point, you know? And the highest prize money ever. Otherwise, what are we doing?
Yeah, and what, obviously, I'm sure everyone knows who Eddie Hall is, but you know, you are the strongest man in the world, you know, and this has been something that you've been doing for a long time. Before we get into your personal story, but what do you think about an event like this? You know, I'm sure people have come and tried maybe something similar in the past, but maybe not to the same magnitude. What's your thoughts on the world's ultimate strongman?
Well, as you say, the shows that run around the world, you know, people have tried it, been there, they've tried inviting the best athletes, doesn't happen. Tried these big arenas, doesn't happen. And Don, well, you know, we met Don back end of last year, and he had this idea of running a strongman show. What do you need to do? Well, I said, well, the only way to do it is to get the best of the best in the best city with the best arena. He's gone ahead and organised all that, and there's going to be nothing like it ever. You know, there never has been. We've done the world. I mean, you've seen the world's strongest man on TV. You probably get at most 300-400 people sort of stood in the background watching. Any other show in the world, maximum 1,000 people. Got the Giants Live in the UK that do a big arena shows, but they've built a brand that's took 15-20 years to build up, you know, and they've eventually got it to a place where we're getting crowds of 10,000 people. But it's never been done to this scale, this arena and this city with the best athletes. So it's going to be a spectacle in itself, in my opinion. You know, we've got the best of the best in the best. Strongman for me is the ultimate entertainment sport. I remember as a kid, of everything I watched on TV, my one subconscious memory as 5, 6 years old, watching the World's Strongest Man on television and saying to my parents, I want to be the world's strongest man. I was just fascinated, absolutely fascinated with men pulling planes, pulling trucks, lifting huge concrete balls onto platforms. I was just fascinated by it. And then I realized that it wasn't just me fascinated by it. It was my mum, dad, brothers, nan, granddad. We were glued, and I mean absolutely glued to the TV, and we never have that on any other show. And that's when I realized that the human race can do nothing but admire strength. It's natural. You see a big freaky guy lifting freaky things, everybody stops to watch. And that's why for me it's the best entertainment sport on the planet. We've got the top 15 athletes in the world. They're all going to do battle in one day, and it's all to find out who's the best, who's the alpha. And for me, that's the best entertainment sport there is.
Yeah, I think you said in an interview, or maybe in your book in the past, like, any man who says he wouldn't want to be the strongest man in the world is just lying. And I mean, like, I kind of like, you know, I was thinking, no, you're wrong, because I don't want to be the world's strongest man. Then I realized, actually, no, it's not. It's like, I know I'm not going to be the world's strongest man, so therefore I've accepted it. But like, I was just thinking, imagine what it must feel like just walk in the room. I remember once when I kind of thought maybe I was the strongest in one of the small branches of Fitness First, and I walked in there like I was the dog college.
It's a good feeling.
And then I realized, actually, no, I'm not. And even if I am, it means nothing. You know? So I couldn't even imagine like walking into a room and just looking around, just being like, hey, I'm stronger than all you.
It's a whole other feeling.
How does it feel walking in to a room, but not even a room, like just being the strongest man in the world? Like that to me is, I couldn't even imagine it.
It is an amazing feeling. It really is, you know. I came third at World's Strongest Man 2016, and honest to God, I came home and threw that trophy straight in the bin. It meant nothing to me, absolutely nothing, because people only care about first place. People only remember winners. And I suppose to be the world's strongest man is exactly that. You know, you're seen as the pinnacle, you're seen as the alpha. And that's what we are. You know, we're all alpha males. We all want to be top dog. And to be top dog is just the best feeling in the world. I couldn't describe it. It's total euphoria.
Because that's the thing, it's the only thing I can say is the ultimate, because sometimes, you know, I watch a lot of fighting. I used to do boxing and stuff, and I'll watch, and then I'll say this guy's the champ, but he's lightweight. I'm like, well, the real alpha of boxing is the heavyweight champ, you know, and the same with running. To me, the alpha is the 100 meters champ. Yeah. You know, if you're the 1500 meters champ, I'm like, okay, but you're not the 100 meter champ. But obviously with this, is like, you know, the heaviest category. There's no category above. No. It's just the pinnacle of strength.
Also the name of the title.
It's, I mean, it's open to anyone.
Strongest man.
Yeah, it's open to anyone in the world.
I would like literally be walking around with just like, just in case you didn't realize I'm the world's strongest man. I'd be introducing myself as, hi, what's your name? World's strongest man.
But see, that's the thing. But that's the thing. It's also the only sport where you can't really hide. If any other sport, you kind of have to pull out a couple of rabbits from the hat and
well, well, exactly. David Beckham, you know, to look at David Beckham in the street, normal guy, looks like a normal guy. What do? You couldn't tell, you know. For him to show you what he could do, he'd have to get a football, kick it around, go on the pitch. Whereas a strong man, you didn't have to look at him, and you can see his success. You can see his huge shoulders, huge back, huge legs, walks with a powerful stride. You know, you can see the success. You don't need to ask. It's pretty obvious what you do.
Yeah, and I think that's what is interesting, because I feel in this day and age with the human attention span is narrowing, you know, because of the fast-paced nature of how instant everything is, emails, text messages, everything. And it's like people need to be entertained immediately. So even when I'm explaining about this event that's happening and the fact that the world's strongest man is coming, I don't show them, when I'm saying, look at this guy, I don't show them the video you lifting a heavy weight, because they can't comprehend it. I show them a video where you've got a human being and you're just shoulder pressing him, you know, and you see their jaws drop. Whereas when I say, oh, he's just, you know, shoulder pressing 80 kilo dumbbells, they're like, oh, that's heavy, that's strong, you know, when they see you doing it with a human being. And that's what's good about strongman is, like, you know, if someone's doing, you know, even in powerlifting, when they've got all this weight, the weights are quite condensed, so people don't really appreciate what it is they're lifting. But
for a non-lifter, for the average Joe, 200 kilos means nothing. Yeah. But carrying a motorcycle means something. You know?
Pulling a plane or pulling a truck.
That's why you can't help but be impressed. You know, you can't help but like, wow.
Exactly that, and that's why I said you can't help but admire strength.
Yeah. And that's the thing, and something else I heard you say, that you just love to entertain, and that's why I'm very interested in, and because, you know, for me, again, I think like a lot of people with strongman, it's something that everyone can't help but be interested in. You always kind of roughly know who the world's strongest man is, and when it's on, you'll flick it on, and you'll keep, whenever you flick through the channels, you'll watch it for a bit, and then you'll move off. But because again, it's once you've seen, I think we spoke about it before, once you've seen one person pulling the truck, pulling the plane, after the kind of the novelty wears off, and then you want to wait for the next event. Now, with this event that's coming up in Dubai, and what I quite like is how it's structured, and why I'm excited to go as a spectator is, it's going to be, you're going to see something amazing, but then your attention's going to be sent to something else, and it's all condensed in one day. And I mean, like, you know, how, because part of me was thinking, as a sportsman, as an athlete, you know, do you not want to be pushing like it as an entertainment side of things, and just no, I want to keep it as it is, but for the sport to grow, to me, I feel it might be essential, you know, for the sport to really reach the magnitude it's capable of. What do you think about that? Is it now being potentially condensed into a shorter period of time, and really trying to get the public attention and get more people to watch it?
Yeah, it is what the sport needs. I mean, any sport can get pretty boring. You know, even a football match can get pretty boring. You know, you only want to watch the sort of when the football's near the goal. That's the only time you want to watch. All the other stuff is irrelevant. So I think that's what Don's created here, is a show that, you know, you're getting the big dogs. We've got the top 15 guys in the world, but in reality, you only want to watch the top 3 or 4 guys. So maybe, you know, you'd watch one guy. I don't want to watch the next 2 guys. Let's go and watch the Shanghai monks, or take the kids on the bouncy castle. Go get a beer, some food. Come back, watch Brian Shaw, 4 pull a truck. Right, 2 shit guys are going now. Go watch somebody else. But that's what Don's done. He's created the opportunity for the people that have got a short attention span to go away and come back and watch at their pleasure, which I think is an amazing thing.
There's 2 things to that. If you look, MMA's existed forever. UFC made it an entertaining format. Boom. Wrestling's existed forever. Add entertainment to it. Look at WWE now. Yeah. Also, in the strongman sport itself, back to your point, do you think that that's why the finale is always the Atlas stones?
Yeah, I think so. You know,
that's more of a
head-to-head feature, isn't it? It's exciting.
You know what I mean? That's the excitement. So even if somebody has flicked through the channels, nobody's ever flicked the channel on Atlas stones.
No, I doubt that.
Is that the reason why it's always?
I'd say it's always the head-to-head events are the most watchable, because it's such excitement. Who's winning? You know, who's going to put that last Atlas stone up first? For sure.
Is there going to be more elements of that? Because even we actually are running a feature there, which is to find the fittest person, fittest man, fittest woman in the Middle East. And when I was speaking to the guy who's going to design the actual the kit, the obstacles, he was very much saying, like, look, for spectators, if you can get head-to-head action, you're going to draw in a crowd. You know, as much as a scoreboard can be exciting, if you can get
nobody wants to watch one person doing an obstacle course, but 2 people having a race. There you go.
Remember, so last year at the Emirates Strength, at the Emirates Strongest Man, the booth next to us, they ran the first Fittest Man challenge. It was them who were running it. I think it was CrossFit the day before, and then you guys did whatever. So that's been taken now, and they've expanded it into sort of an open, and they're doing it before World's Ultimate Strongman starts.
We also learned a valuable lesson, because we hadn't invested in an expensive sound system. We were right next to you guys who had. Well, like, next time we need a better sound system. Find out what size yours is and match it. But what I'm interested in from you as well is, because for me, I'm into the fitness industry, but I also have been starting some businesses and stuff like that. So it's something where, like, what's a personal interest to me is I feel like every single person has some kind of advice they can give you, whether it's things that's went well for them, things that's not went so well for them. And obviously, the most interesting people, but are not the kind of people you get to sit and talk to on a day-to-day basis, are the people who've achieved unachievable things. Now, I noticed in your book, in the first chapter of your book, you mentioned Roger Bannister, who's me being an ex 1500 meter runner, mile runner. You know, he's obviously a very familiar name if anyone's not aware. he's the first man that broke the 4-minute mile. You know, everyone was saying, the scientists were saying, it is physically impossible for a human being to run faster than 4 minutes. And people were getting 4:01, 4 point something. No one broke it. And then Roger Bannister, he went for it. I think it was in 1957, 67, and he broke it. After that, you know, he collapsed, and he defied logic. He defied what was seen as humanly possible. And
All right.
it's the coffee. And then after that, lots of people started breaking it. And this is something that you said is, you know, no one had deadlifted 500 kilos. Yeah. You know, I mean, I don't even think I have to try and contextualize that to people. That is heavy. You know, it's half a ton. You know, that's a lot of weight. And everyone was saying the same thing. It's not possible. It's not possible. Now, to the normal human being, that's gonna, like, all them people saying it's not possible. It's not possible. It's not possible. You're going to convince yourself, even if maybe you're strong enough to do it, then they're going to believe it so much. Now, there's not many people in the world or that has even existed on this planet who've managed to do something where they've defied what people thought was possible. And we're lucky enough to be sat with you, who is one of them. And that to me is I mean, winning the world's strongest title is impressive, but to me, like, defying what every other human being was saying was possible is in a league of its own. Yeah. Like, can you just kind of explain, like, your mentality with that? As in, like, how did you find that self-belief? Because you didn't just add a little bit of weight on. You added like about 70 pounds, is that right?
Yeah.
You broke your own record, didn't you?
Yeah.
So was that how it was, I think?
So in 2015, we did the World Deadlift Champs, and I just became a professional strongman. And I pulled 463 kilos for a new world record for a speed rep. And I thought to myself, in my head, I could pull 500 kilos. But then I thought, how can I use it to my advantage? For money. Now, not in a greedy way, but in a way of, I need the money to become the world's strongest man. I need that money. And, well, let me just tell you, like, on a weekly basis, I was spending £300 a week on food, 250 to 300 quid a week on physiotherapy, 250 to 300 quid a week on supplements and other recovery methods. I was spending the best part of 900 quid a week just on my body. Not on mortgage, bills, wife, kids, food, just on me.
So in Dubai money, that's about 5,000 dirhams. That's a lot of money.
5,000 dirhams a week, just on my body.
In the UK?
Yeah. So,
5,000 dirhams a week.
You know, and my savings were running out quickly. And I also needed to invest in recovery equipment. I needed a hot tub, a cold tub, a sauna, a steam room, and last, a hyperbaric chamber. Now, a hyperbaric chamber is a super advanced piece of kit, only used by top NFL players. And I've got one in the back of my garden, in a gym. And if you were to buy it to that spec, have it installed, delivered from America, set up, £150,000. Now, at the time, this is money I didn't have, and it's something that I knew I needed to take me to the next step. So after I pulled that world record deadlift at Europe's 2015, I went to the promoters and I said, how would you feel about putting up a big lump sum of prize money if someone to pull 500 kilo? And they just literally looked at each other and were like, how much do you want? Because they didn't believe it could be done, and they admitted that. They didn't think it was possible. So we shook hands on a deal. I went away Monday morning, got my mate to call the bookies up, put a bid on myself, 25 to 1.
I did not know this.
So basically I put enough money on myself with prize money in this bookies deal. If I were to pull 500 kilo, not only would I have enough money financially to win the world's strongest man, I had enough money to set myself up for life. So that's why I did it, to solidify my title and to set myself up for life. And I went on a journey from 15 to 16, and it was hell. You know, for about 6 months, I got to a point where I could probably pull 475 in the gym, 480. And I quickly realized that I wasn't actually strong enough to pull 500 kilos. And I had an amazing team around me, blood nutritionists, scientists, physios. I had you name it. I'd been private doctors, you name it, I had it. All the hyperbaric chambers, everything. And I'm really, you know, I've got all my team together. It's like, how the fuck do I pull 500 kilo? I'm not strong enough. And then a scientist sat me down, says, right Ed, let me explain something to you. A normal day-to-day person that doesn't train, walking around, probably has access to about 50% of their muscle fibers. Someone who trains 15 hours a week probably access to about, at most, 75% of their muscle fibers. But then a mother who's had a car crash, can lift the car off of the kids, has access to 100% of the muscle fibers. How does she do that? And it's basically a mass release of hormones and adrenaline. And he said, you've got to basically train yourself to do that. And that's what I had to do. I had to see psychiatrists, hypnotherapists, and I had to train myself to have this flick switch of literally thinking like disgustingly dark thoughts. I can't talk about them. But before that deadlift, I flicked a switch and I wasn't in the room. And when I was lifting that 500 kilo, I wasn't lifting 500 kilo off the floor, I was lifting a car off of my kids. And I think that's why, to me, I don't think it'll be replicated ever again, because it was something I had to go to a different, I wasn't in that arena, I was somewhere else completely. And the damage I did for myself for that 500 kilo was surreal. You know, the footage they showed on TV wasn't the actual footage. The actual footage was too gruesome to show at Christmas. So there's blood coming out my nose, my eyes, my ears. I collapsed, passed out. I was convulsing, in and out consciousness. They all gathered around, they cleaned me up, and one of the helpers like, Ed, just get up and, you know, do your speech, make out as easy. So they did, they cleaned me up, I got up, did my little speech, got backstage, bam, face first, unconscious, down. I got, you know, brought me back round, my heart rate was through the roof, my blood pressure was unreadable, I lost my vision, I couldn't see properly, came back after about 3 hours. And then for about 3 weeks after, and this is where it really got scary, is that I had the signs of concussion. And I couldn't remember my wife's name, I couldn't remember my kid's name, I couldn't remember conversations, I forgot how to drive my fucking car. And that, you know, when I was seeing the doctor, my private doctor, he basically said, you blew your brain out. You burst something so drastically where it caused concussion. So basically my whole brain just shook and bled, basically. So it was a very dangerous thing to do. But as I say, I did it because I needed that money to become the world's strongest man. And if you would ask me, would I go back in time and do it all again? Yes, I fucking would.
Man, I obviously personally had no idea the consequences of doing something like that, and that's I don't know, that to me is obviously showing that I mean, we use the cliche, oh, you give 100% or 110%, but that to me is the true definition of you know, anyone now who says that they give 100% to something, I'll be like, yeah, let me tell you about Eddie Hall.
There was no stone unturned. And I say, like, I literally remortgaged my house in that process leading up to the 500 because I knew I was going to do it. I knew I was going to do it. So I'd already spent the money. I'd already took out the loans and bought the hyperbaric chamber. I'd already spent the money. But it was all hanging on this one day where I go and lift 500 kilo and my life changed. And it literally did. That made me the world's strongest man.
Strongest man after that.
Yeah. That made me the world's strongest man. That made me the brand. That made me the Roger Bannister. That made me the Neil Armstrong. And, you know, there's talk of people coming in and breaking it. But let me ask you this. Who was the second man to run a 4-minute mile? And who was the second man on the moon? Nobody gives a shit. And that's the fact. So anyone can come and have a go, they can do it. Good luck to them. But in my opinion, I think they've got more chance of shagging the Queen.
Can I tell you, I remember actually, I remember when this happened. When was it, when was it in 2016? 2016, it was...
The deadlift?
Yeah.
It was July when I did it.
It was July, I think, huh?
Yeah, July the 9th.
July 9th. I remember that day because I was working the shit job. I was here in Dubai. But what happened was, one of my colleagues, I think he messaged me the night before or something. He's like, hey, by the way, because him and I deadlifted a lot. That's probably the only thing I'm good at, right? Well, good for this. He's like, so Eddie Hall's gonna pull 500 kilos tomorrow, and we're taking bets. I'm like, Well, okay, he's going to pull it. It's not, I mean, he explained the whole betting system to me, and I just didn't take it. I would have bet that he will, because I didn't know any of that story back then. Anyway, I didn't go for it, but I literally remember the moment the next day when he sent me a message. He's like, oh fuck, and he pulled the first 500 kilos. I'm like, shit, and then it was just frenzy. And I was not a strongman fan at the time. I mean, I know who you were, but at that time I was more familiar with Shaw, Brian Shaw, because he had made more appearances. I knew Big Z, because you stayed under the radar for quite some time, and then in 2-3 years, didn't you break a record where they disqualified the rep?
Yeah, I did a world record deadlift and let go. You meant to lower it down.
You meant to lower it down, I think. So then the next one you did, just again, making it into an entertainment format. You held it and did an interview.
That's one of the
for like 15 seconds.
That's one of the year previous,
The other year, something like it was 460 or something like that.
450,
something like that.
The lift before the world record, I held it for about 20 seconds and did an interview to the television.
By the way, I slowed it down and I watched it. The 500 kilos after lockout, 3.5 seconds.
Yeah, and that's where I did the damage.
That's where.
Yeah. So, I mean, it was the lift, not of the century, but it was the lift of history. You know, the heaviest weight ever lifted from the ground, ever. And no one's ever come close. You know, I think that the next man down is 472 kilos, still 38 kilos off.
But did Pritchett come close in that particular event?
No, I think Pritchett,
he did come close.
He pulled 465 and then tried the 500. He didn't even break the floor, and he ripped his hamstring off.
Oh, he did, okay.
Benny pulled it about an inch off the floor.
Was it Benny?
And then stopped dead. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know, because I've met high-level athletes, I've met very successful people, and I'll be honest, maybe I just haven't found it, but like that level of self-sacrifice and self-belief and commitment, I haven't, you know, like especially after telling me like everything that came after it, ears bleeding, eyes bleeding. I mean, I couldn't even imagine that. Do you think there's many people in the world who have that? As in, like,
the mentality to go beyond.
Yeah.
There are people that obviously exist. You know, I think to be the top of any sport, you've got to be a little bit fucked in the head. Yeah. Is probably the right description. You've got to have some void, something that's maybe disturbed you as a child, that's made you go on and do these things. Maybe you've got some sort of condition, ADHD, dyspraxia, you know. Something like that can lead to massive success.
Most billionaires are dyslexic.
Well, there you go.
And actually touch on that, because that's something that's a big interest of mine. We were just chatting about it before, is because in my previous job in the UK, I used to work with kids who they were not functioning well in mainstream school. Their behavior, they were in gangs, they were getting in a lot of trouble. And rather than put them in a pupil referral unit, which is when they've been kicked out of school, because then the statistics are they've got more chance of going to jail than university. So we had a centre, myself and my boss, we kept them out of mainstream school, and we were working with them very closely to try and integrate them back into mainstream. And this is where, to me, like these kids are my, every goal I have is always got these in mind. You know, like my goal is to go back and help these kids, because I fell for the trap of when I first went and met some of them. You know, they're swearing at me, the way they're talking to each other, laughing the fact they've mugged someone the night before, and all this, like, you know, and it's like a real kind of, they have to laugh with each other and things. And I kind of labeled them, you know, as, oh, these are not nice people, you know. And then I got to know them, and then everything changed, you know, and I started seeing them for, you know, they are kids who are struggling with the way the educational system is set up, and because of certain, whether it's ADHD, whether it's something that they're really struggling to fit in. And I started seeing, and one thing that changed, I started looking at the kid as a human being, just like the rest of us. And I love the kids, you know. The behaviors, not so much. You know, if someone just threw something at me, you know, when I speak to them, I don't dislike the kid, but I didn't like that behavior. So for me, these kids is in and one of my kind of, for me it was their safety outside of school. Yeah. Secondly was trying to let them believe in themselves and realize that just because they're not good at biology or whatever, it doesn't mean that they're not good at things and they've got potential. Third was trying to teach them like a bit of etiquette and discipline to survive in the outside world. And then fourth was education, you know? It was down here. And obviously a lot of these kids, you can see you getting through them, but a lot of them, they just don't believe it. They don't believe it because for years they've been told that you're not going to make anything. And Eddie, if you don't mind me saying, like when I've been reading your book, it seems like you are kind of one of them. Not so much, you know, you're a very bright lad, but you were getting in a lot of trouble. You got expelled from school at 15. And to me, like, I find it fascinating the fact that you managed to, you still got your education. You've achieved something that no one else has ever achieved. Like, so it's more for like, if there's any of these kids watching, you know, who maybe been marginalized by society and labeled, like, you know, because I believe them, and obviously like this is evidence that they can achieve great things. And I just want to speak to you a little bit about that.
So I genuinely believe that kids that have been held back or pushed back when they were kids, I've almost got more willpower to go on and be successful in life. When I was 13, 14, I was kicked off the Olympic swimming squad because I didn't get on with the head coach. You know, I fell out with him because I didn't bode well with authority. Expelled from school, and then a family member became ill. And I ended up becoming very depressed and locking myself in the house, locking myself in the bedroom on antidepressants, Prozacs, and seeing psychiatrists. And I hit rock bottom, like suicide attempts a lot. And the one thing that helped me the most was my mum and dad joined me into a gym and sort of said, Ed, just please leave the house and do something. Just get out and do some exercise. And I did. I went to the gym and I lifted weights. And for me, that was my void filler. Going and lifting weights. Every time I went and lifted weights and walked out the gym, I'd feel better. I'd have a sense of well-being. And that then I realized that you have to keep moving forward in life, otherwise you sink and dwell. And that I was a national champion swimmer when I was a kid, and you would look at me and you think, no way. And they say, how'd you get into swimming? Well, my mum was a swimming teacher actually when I was a kid. And I asked her the question, and she said, we were on holiday in Portugal, and about 2 years old, all the family's there, and I kept running, jumping in the pool, and brother had fished me out, dad had fished me out, mum had fished me out. Halfway through the holiday, about 1,000th time, I jumped in the swimming pool. And after that 1,000th time, my mum looked at me and just said, fuck you. Sink or swim. And I swam. And like when I was 13, when nothing was going on in my life, and I sat in my bedroom, felt sorry for myself, felt like the world against me, all the teachers were against me, my swimming coaches were against me, and you know, everything was going wrong in my life. I was sinking. And then I realized that when I went to the gym and picked my arse up, and then eventually got a job and started doing strongman, and then became, you know, won England's, won UK's, then got to Worlds, and all that depression and anxiety just disappeared gradually, the more and more I pushed forward. And when I won the World's Strongest Man, my depression and anxiety disappeared completely. And then 2 months after I won the World's Strongest Man, you know, after having a couple of lazy months, I began to become depressed and get anxiety again. And I realized that that's the key to my life, is that you either sink and sit and dwell and think the world's against you, or you keep moving forward and get on with your life. And that was my cure is. So that's my message to you, Don, everyone in life. You either sink or swim, one or the other. And I know which one I'd rather be doing.
But do you think you would create a challenge for yourself just for this purpose, to stay out of the anxiety?
Yeah, I think it is, you know.
See, that's what works.
Everything. You know, I set the target at 19 years old to become the world's strongest man. I went for it. It kept me busy for 10 years. It took me 10 years to achieve it. I did it. Come back home, started to sink. What do we do now? Right, I want to be an actor. Go and do my acting lessons, sign with a TV agent, landed a couple of movie roles, yet to come. And I'm picking off there, you know, and it's keeping me busy. Going for my acting lessons every week and still doing my appearances, still training. I'm just always moving forward. And I think that was my tool, was keeping busy. That's what kept my depression and anxiety at bay.
And no, that's valuable advice. And obviously one thing, I mean, I was, as a fellow Englishman, you know, with the World Cup just around the corner, and even getting to the semi-final for the first time in a long time. What I was kind of very disappointed with when they didn't win is because obviously in our generation, you know, it hasn't been one since 1966. A lot of my friends and everything are more into football than myself. That's the pinnacle. They bleed football. They talk about it all the time and everything. And to them, the ultimate, you know, because they're not trying to be there themselves, they're not trying to be in the team themselves, will be for England to win the World Cup. And what I'll be fascinated is, I really want to see it, because I want to know, like, to put everything on this, when it happens, like, will this be like a euphoria that lasts forever? Will it be something that, okay, in 2 months' time it settles down, it's like, okay, what now? So that's what I was thinking, because obviously for 10 years, you know, it was, I'm going to be the world's strongest man. And then you've got it, you've done it, you've achieved your wildest dreams. Now, obviously you've got other businesses, other goals and everything, but what would you say is your, now, you know, moving forward, it's done, it's achieved. For the rest of your life, you know, you're gonna have 50 years or however long, like, when you lie on your deathbed, you've already achieved that, like, what's next? What's the ultimate for you?
So as I say, I came back from the World's Strongest Man very happy, very content. You know, I was able to wake up every morning, look in the mirror and just say, fuck yeah, done it, success. And then that novelty wears off very quickly. And it's like, what's next? And I just decided, just one day, just sat at home and just decided I want to be an actor. So I went and started acting lessons, signed with a film agent, got stuck in, started going to all the castings. As I say, I landed a couple of roles that are coming up, and I think that's my goal now. You know, that is for me. One of my other passions is to give back to the sport of strongman as well. Doing a huge website where there will be live stream of all the strongman shows around the world eventually. There's going to be a strongman games format being introduced, and it already goes on, but it's been embedded into the website. And then training content of the athletes. How do they train? What are their opinions? What are their thoughts on recovery? What are their thoughts on nutrition? Watching them train. And we're doing that. We've probably got 15 athletes signed up, top athletes. So, and all that revenue and money is going to go back into the sport to bring up the younger generation, because like when I started out doing strongman, I had to work 3 jobs to fund it. It took me 10 years, sorry, it took me 8 years to become a pro. And then the last 2 years of my career, 2.5 years of my career, I was funded by sponsors, endorsements, and you know, I was able to train full time. I would not have won the World's Strongest Man had I not had that backing. So the money I want to use from this website is going to go back into the athletes. We're going to make some, what we see as potential superstars full time. You know, people like Iron Baby that are young, just starting out, and they need the funding. They need the funding to be able just to train full time. And that's what we're going to do with the money.
Yeah, and I think that's great, because obviously, again, it is something that's fascinated us as strongman, and the fact that, you know, now you've done it, and you are, as Don said, pretty much the face of strongman. You know, I mean, I'll be honest, I couldn't name many names, as in, but Eddie Hall was always one that I knew. Maybe it's because I'm English, but maybe that's it. But it's in, and the fact that now you are dedicating, you know, a good portion of your time to build this sport, and the fact that, and that's why I find it exciting that, you know, if Don had come to me and said, I've got this idea, I'm going to create this event, and it was like, okay, who you got involved? And he was like, Jimmy, you can deadlift 300 kilos. I'd be like, okay, you know, but he's like, Eddie Hall, world's strongest man. I'm like, oh, now I'm listening, you know, and exactly. Yeah, and I think it's going in the right direction, you know, because I think it does, you know, to me as someone who's living in Dubai, and I'm seeing people around Dubai getting given free stuff, free haulers, free this, free that, and people get it easy, you know. The fact that you would dedicate your life to it, you had to work 3 jobs because there wasn't enough money in the sport for sponsors, you know, as in maybe some younger version of Eddie Hall will not have to work 3 jobs, and he can go pro earlier because of your contribution.
Yeah. Which has a knock-on effect to everybody.
Exactly.
You know, the younger the guys 2-3 years younger below him, and it has a massive knock-on effect. It has a knock-on effect for the younger kids who want to get into the sport. I can only see it as a massive positive, that what's going to be happening, and what Don's doing as well in the Middle East. You know, there's the core strongman's happened here before, but it's never been noticed. And I think this is definitely going to get noticed. And like I said, I was 5 years old when I subconsciously decided I want to be the world's strongest man. So what's that going to do in the UAE? It's going to put those thoughts in those little kids' minds, and the sport will evolve, and it will get the masses.
Yeah. I think we'll leave it there. Thank you very much.
Awesome, thank you.
Jonny, thank you.